Imagine waking up tomorrow with a literal superpower.
Oh, wow. Okay. Like, what kind of superpower?
Well, not flying and, not invisibility. I'm talking about the ability to make almost anyone you meet genuinely want to help you.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, to actively agree with your ideas and to just genuinely enjoy your company.
Right. And achieving all of that without, a single ounce of manipulation or coercion. I mean, it sounds like a psychological cheat code, but it is actually a highly specific, observable framework for interacting with the world.
It really
A
is.
way of operating that just completely disarms people.
And the fascinating part is that the instruction manual for this framework, well, it isn't new. It's been sitting in plain sight since 1937.
937, yeah.
Right. Today, our deep dive is into Dale Carnegie's absolute classic, How to Win Friends and Influence People. We've got this massive stack of excerpts, notes, and historical case studies right here.
We really do.
Now, you might be thinking, like, 1937. Hasn't behavioral science moved on? But as we're going to explore, while our technology has completely transformed, the underlying cognitive drivers of the human brain have not changed one bit.
No, the hardware is exactly the same. The same neurological triggers that motivated a factory worker a century ago are motivating software engineers today.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission today isn't to just give you a book summary.
Definitely not.
We are going to arrange Carnegie's core insights into a practical chronological sequence, a daily blueprint that you can start applying from the moment you wake up tomorrow until you go to sleep.
I love that approach. But before we get to the morning routine, we kind of have to establish the foundational premise of his entire philosophy.
Right, the baseline.
Exactly. The foundational premise is realizing that when you are dealing with people, you are not dealing with creatures of logic. You are dealing with creatures of emotion.
So true.
We are creatures bristling with prejudices, and our operating systems are, well, they're entirely motivated by pride and vanity.
Which is a tough pill to swallow sometimes.
It is. But if you try to force raw logic onto a situation that is being driven by someone's ego, you will lose that battle every single time. And to be clear right up front, applying these principles only works if there is a genuine, sincere shift in how you view the people around you. You cannot fake this.
Which is actually the perfect jumping off point for the start of our day. Let's look at the very first thing that happens when you step out your front door.
The morning commute.
Exactly. The foundation of all human relations starts with your mindset and those immediate, split-second first impressions. The text provides a case study of a New York stockbroker named William B. Steinhardt.
Oh, the grumpy guy.
Yes, the notoriously miserable guy. For 18 years, he rarely smiled, barely spoke to his family, and was just like a rain cloud of a human being.
Until he decided to run a deliberate behavioral experiment.
Right.
He simply decided to start smiling. He greeted his wife with a genuine smile. He walked out of his apartment and smiled at the elevator operator, the doorman, the subway cashier, and the clerks on the floor of the stock exchange.
And the feedback loop was instantaneous. People who used to approach him with defensive energy suddenly became collaborative.
Just from a smile.
Yeah. He reported that this one change brought more happiness into his home in 2 months than there had been in the previous year, and it tangibly improved his business outcomes.
It's incredible.
It is. Now, on the surface, just smile sounds like the most generic advice possible. I mean, it's like a silent compliment or a vibe check that lowers defenses. But what if I'm just having a terrible morning? Can I fake the smile?
What's fascinating here is that you really can't. And it explains why a forced, mechanical smile doesn't work at all.
Because people can tell.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Humans are incredibly adept at reading micro-expressions. We can subconsciously detect the difference between a real smile, what psychologists call a Duchenne smile, which engages the muscles around the eyes, and a fake, polite smile.
So the fake one actually backfires.
Right. When someone flashes a fake smile, our brains read it as a potential threat or manipulation. It triggers suspicion. A real smile, however, signals psychological safety. It comes from a place of genuine interest in the other person. Carnegie uses the ultimate example of this, the dog.
Oh, man, it's so true. When you get within 10 feet of a dog, it just starts wagging its tail. It practically jumps out of its skin to show you how thrilled it is that you exist.
Because the dog has zero ulterior motives. It isn't trying to sell you real estate or, network with you.
Right.
It is just genuinely happy to see you. Human beings often blunder through life doing the exact opposite. They try to force other people to be interested in them. And it universally fails because people simply are not interested in you.
They're entirely interested in themselves, morning, noon, and night.
Yep. To put data to that, the New York Telephone Company once conducted a detailed study of telephone conversations to find out the most frequently used word in human communication.
And it was.
It was the personal pronoun I. It was used 3,900 times in 500 conversations.
Wow, 3,900 times.
Exactly. We spend the vast majority of our waking hours thinking about ourselves. So when you actually step outside of your own ego and shift your focus entirely to the other person, greeting them with the genuine, unbridled enthusiasm of that dog, you become an irresistible anomaly.
You short-circuit their default self-obsession.
Precisely.
So, okay, you've used that intrinsic focus to set a positive baseline on your morning commute. You are signaling psychological safety. But eventually, you arrive at work.
And reality hits.
Right, this is where the theory meets reality, because the workplace is full of actual friction. Deadlines are missed, colleagues make mistakes, clients get unreasonable. Our daily sequence has to shift from simple friendliness to active conflict management.
This brings us to what is arguably the most difficult psychological pivot in the book: the absolute refusal to criticize, condemn, or complain.
Which is so hard to do.
It sounds simple, but it violently contradicts our human instinct to correct someone when they wrong us. To understand why criticism is so biologically ineffective, we have to look at extreme examples of how people view themselves.
Like the classic Al Capone anecdote from the book.
Yes.
The fact that the most notorious gangster in Chicago didn't condemn himself. Capone actually claimed he spent his life giving people lighter pleasures and saw himself as an unappreciated public benefactor.
It's pure ego protection.
Exactly. But here's where it gets really interesting, is applying that exact same cognitive dissonance to modern office dynamics.
Right, because Carnegie also mentions 2 Gun Crowley, a murderer who wrote a letter while surrounded by 150 police officers firing machine guns into his apartment.
What did he write?
Crowley wrote that he had a weary but kind heart that would do nobody any harm.
While shooting at police.
Exactly. If notorious criminals facing life in prison possess such immense cognitive dissonance that they don't blame themselves for anything, what makes you think your coworker is going to respond rationally when you tell them their quarterly report was a disaster?
Right. Criticism instantly forces a person to build a defensive wall. It wounds their pride and arouses resentment. Even Abraham Lincoln learned this.
Oh, the Lincoln story is great.
Yeah, he used to write scathing letters to political rivals until it almost got him killed in a duel. Later, during the Civil War, General George Meade completely blew a major strategic opportunity at Gettysburg. Meade ignored direct orders, the enemy escaped, and Lincoln was furious.
Totally understandable.
Yeah, he wrote a crushing, bitter letter to Meade.
But he never sent it.
He didn't. It was found among his papers after his death. Lincoln had realized that sending the letter wouldn't reverse the mistake. It would only force Meade to justify his actions and impair his future ability to lead.
Okay, but I hear people pushing back on this all the time.
Wait, I have to challenge the premise here, too. I struggle with this never criticize rule. If I'm managing a fast-paced team and someone fundamentally drops the ball, ignoring it feels like a fast track to toxic positivity.
Right.
We can't just have zero accountability. How do I actually fix a problem without criticizing?
That is the crucial distinction. You aren't ignoring the error. You are changing how you frame the correction. You have to address the action without attacking the identity.
Okay, how so?
The text highlights business leader Owen D. Young, who was famous for never giving a direct command. Instead of saying, your approach to this project is wrong, do it this way, he would ask, do you think this other method might work better? Or what if we considered this angle?
So by phrasing it as a question, you are allowing them to retain their autonomy. You're giving them the space to come up with the correction themselves, which saves their ego.
Yes, and if we look at the cognitive science behind that, the book references the behavioral psychologist B.F. Skinner.
The operant conditioning guy.
Exactly. His experiments proved that an animal rewarded for good behavior learns much more rapidly and retains that learning better than an animal punished for bad behavior. The human brain operates on the exact same reward circuitry.
So praise over punishment.
Right. Instead of harping on the failure, you praise the slightest improvement. You give the person a, quote, fine reputation to live up to. If you tell a struggling employee that you know they are highly capable and you trust their judgment to fix the issue, they will make prodigious efforts to align their actions with that positive identity. You are leveraging their pride instead of attacking it.
Okay, let's move our timeline forward. You've navigated that team friction without bruising any egos. Now it's the afternoon, and you have to actively persuade someone.
Afternoon pitch.
Right. You are pitching a new initiative. trying to close a sale, or maybe getting a stubborn colleague on board with a new process.
To do that, you have to arouse an eager want. The only way to influence other people is to stop talking about what you want and start talking entirely in terms of what they want and show them how to get it.
Which is hard, because when I'm trying to persuade someone, my instinct is usually to just stack up data, facts, and logical arguments to prove my point.
Right, we all do that.
But there's a brilliant visual in the text involving Ralph Waldo Emerson that shows why logic is completely useless if you ignore motivation. Emerson and his son were trying to get a calf into a barn.
Oh, this story is perfect.
They made the classic intellectual mistake. They only thought about their own objective. Emerson pushed the calf, his son pulled the calf, and the calf, acting on its own logic, stiffened its legs and refused to move.
Until their Irish housemaid intervened. She didn't try to out-muscle the calf or use logic. She thought about what the calf wanted.
What did she do?
She simply put her finger in the calf's mouth and let it suck her finger as she gently guided it into the barn. She tapped into its intrinsic motivation.
It's such a perfect metaphor for arguments. When we try to force our opinions on someone, we are just pushing and pulling a stubborn calf. It's a battle of opposing momentum. You have to redirect that momentum. The book tells a story about Carnegie at a banquet for Sir Ross Smith. A guest told a story and misattributed a quote to the Bible, but Carnegie knew it was from Shakespeare.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Carnegie corrected him publicly, the man doubled down, and it instantly turned into a tense argument.
And Carnegie's friend, who was a Shakespeare expert, actually kicked Carnegie under the table and sided with the incorrect guest.
Really? Why?
Well, on the way home, the friend explained the strategy. He said, "We were guests at a festive occasion. Why prove a man he is wrong? Is that going to make him like you? Why not let him save his face?"
Wow.
The friend understood that winning a semantic argument at the cost of alienating the person is a massive strategic failure. This raises an important question, right? How often do we prioritize our own ego over actually achieving our goal?
You completely lose the war just to win a tiny battle of the ego. It's like dropping the rope in a tug of war. If someone comes at you with aggressive opposition, the most disarming thing you can say is, "I don't blame you one iota for feeling as you do. If I were you, I would undoubtedly feel exactly the same way."
That completely evaporates their combativeness.
Because it validates their emotion, which is what they are actually fighting for.
Exactly. If you want to persuade someone effectively, look at the secret of Socrates. Socrates didn't tell people they were wrong. He asked gentle, carefully constructed questions that his opponent had to agree with.
Ah, the yes response.
Right, he would win one admission after another until he had a whole armful of yeses.
It builds cognitive momentum.
Exactly that. By getting the other person saying yes, yes at the very beginning, you establish a pattern of agreement. You keep their brain from taking a bristling defensive stance. You are proving that you are striving for the same end goal, even if your proposed method is different.
Okay, the workday wraps up. You're moving into the evening. Maybe you are at a networking event, a dinner party, or just unwinding with your family.
I'll wind down.
Yes, the objective shifts from persuasion to building deep, lasting connections. And the counterintuitive secret to becoming a captivating conversationalist in these settings, well, it's to barely speak at all.
You really have to become an elite listener. Carnegie shares a story about meeting a woman at a bridge party. She didn't want to play cards. She found out he had traveled extensively, so she asked to hear about his trips.
Okay.
But as they sat down, she mentioned she had recently returned from Africa. Carnegie simply said, "Africa? How fascinating. Tell me about it."
And she talked for 45 minutes straight. She never asked him another question about his travels.
Well, no, when?
She just wanted an interested audience so she could expand her ego and share her experiences. And when the night was over, she thought Carnegie was one of the greatest conversationalists she had ever met, despite him saying almost nothing.
We have to look at why that works so universally. True, patient listening is incredibly rare. We live in a world defined by constant distraction and fractured attention.
Everyone's always looking at their phones.
Right. Giving someone your undivided, focused attention is one of the highest forms of sincere appreciation you can offer. It is a cognitive gift.
We usually think that to make people like us, we need to be endlessly interesting. We boast about our achievements, we try to seem impressive.
But it's the opposite.
Yeah, the book quotes the French philosopher La Rochefoucauld, who noted, "If you want enemies, excel your friends. But if you want friends, let your friends excel you."
Giving them the floor to excel is powerful, but there is one critical detail that acts as the ultimate multiplier for that connection.
What's that?
Their name. To any person, their name is the sweetest and most important sound in any language.
Oh, Franklin D. Roosevelt was famous for utilizing this. He knew that remembering names made people feel inherently valued.
Even in the most monotonous grinds, a name works magic.
Right, like that story about the General Motors cafeteria worker. The woman making sandwiches behind the counter was always scowling. She felt like a human machine, weighing the ham, tossing the lettuce, handing it over in a blur of repetitive transactions.
Until an employee made a deliberate shift. He smiled, used her specific name, and then told her what he wanted. He pulled her out of the anonymity of her job.
And what happened?
Suddenly, she wasn't a machine anymore. She smiled back, engaged with him, and gave him extra portions. By treating her as a distinct individual, he completely transformed her demeanor.
There is a psychological term for this, right? The cocktail party effect, where you can be in a loud, crowded room, but the second someone across the room says your name, your brain zeroes in on it.
That's the reticular activating system, or RAS, at work. Our brains are bombarded with millions of bits of sensory information every second.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
So the RAS acts as a filter, deciding what gets through to our conscious mind. And because we are biologically wired for self-preservation and self-interest, our own name is programmed as a high-priority signal.
That makes total sense.
When you use someone's name, you are quite literally hacking their neurological filter to guarantee they pay attention to you and feel prioritized.
Which brings us to the final phase of our sequence. We've gone through an entire day applying these concepts. But if you try to overhaul your personality for 24 hours, it is exhausting.
Oh, you'll be drained.
You'll default back to your old habits by Tuesday. How do you actually systematize this learning so it becomes permanent?
You have to build a feedback loop. Applying these techniques requires rigorous self-examination.
Okay, like a weekend review.
Exactly. The text outlines the strategy of a highly successful Wall Street bank president. Every Saturday night, he refused to make social plans. Instead, he would sit down alone, open his engagement book, and conduct a ruthless review of every single interview, discussion, and meeting of the week.
So what does this all mean? He's just grading himself.
Yeah, he would ask himself, what mistakes did I make in that negotiation? And what did I do right, and how could I have improved? He admitted it was deeply uncomfortable to confront his own blunders. But over the years, those blunders became less frequent.
Self-reflection is biologically difficult because, again, our brains want to protect our ego. It is infinitely easier to find fault in others than to find fault in ourselves.
Absolutely.
It is easier to talk about what we want than what someone else wants. But to change these ingrained habits, you are dealing with neuroplasticity. You have to consciously unlearn defensive responses and wire new empathetic pathways.
And the book even suggests making a game out of it to introduce immediate consequences.
Oh, like a swear jar.
Basically, offer your spouse, your child, or a close colleague $1 every time they catch you violating one of these principles. Every time you interrupt or criticize or argue aggressively, you create a financial penalty for your ego.
That's brilliant.
By actively campaigning to change these habits, you are tapping into dormant assets. As the text quotes Professor William James, compared to what we ought to be, we are only half awake. Systematizing these principles through weekly reviews or games greatly expand your operational potential.
Let's quickly recap the daily sequence we've built here. You wake up, you step out the door offering Duchenne smiles, projecting psychological safety, and showing the intrinsic interest of a dog.
Right.
You get to the office, and when friction hits, you don't criticize the person. You ask questions that allow them to fix the process while saving their pride.
Then the afternoon.
Right. In the afternoon, you persuade by looking for their eager want, avoiding the tug-of-war of logic, and building Socratic momentum with a series of yeses.
And in the evening.
In the evening, you deepen relationships by letting others excel, utilizing the reticular activating system by using their names, and offering the rare gift of undivided attention. And finally, on the weekend, you audit your performance.
It is an incredibly demanding sequence, but the return on investment is unparalleled. A study by the Carnegie Foundation revealed a stunning statistic that perfectly encapsulates why this matters.
Let's hear it.
They found that even in highly technical fields like engineering, only 15% of one's financial success is due to technical knowledge.
15%. That is staggering.
The other 85% of financial success is due to skill in human engineering, to personality and the ability to lead and understand people.
Think about that context for a second. We live in a modern world that is completely obsessed with technical skills, with optimizing algorithms with staring at screens and automating workflows.
Everything is digital.
Right. And yet, the data insists that the real differentiator is how you navigate human emotion. Could it be that mastering the simple analog art of making another human being feel genuinely important is actually the ultimate, unbeatable competitive advantage in a digital world?
That is the profound realization at the heart of this entire philosophy. We spend so much time upgrading our software, but we neglect the human operating system.
That superpower we talked about at the beginning, the ability to make people genuinely want to collaborate with you. It isn't magic and it isn't manipulation. It is just a deliberate choice you make in every single interaction, every single day.
So true.
We invite you to test this sequence tomorrow. Flash a genuine smile at the first person you see. Find a way to validate a frustrated colleague. Step outside your own ego and see what happens.